In the dusty heart of the Arizona Territory, where the sun scorched the earth like an unrelenting forge, two brothers named Eli and Caleb stumbled upon a secret that sealed their fate. It was 1872, and the town of Dust Creek was a fragile outpost clinging to life amid the canyons and sagebrush. Eli, the elder at 25, with calloused hands from years of mining, and Caleb, barely 20, with a spark of youthful defiance in his eyes, had been digging for silver when their pickaxes struck not ore, but a hidden cache. Buried deep in an abandoned shaft was a ledger, pages filled with names, dates, and sums that exposed the town's mayor, Harlan Blackwood, as the puppet master behind a string of stagecoach robberies. The deadly secret wasn't just theft, it was murder. Blackwood's gang had killed innocent travelers, including women and children, to cover their tracks. The brothers knew sharing this would mean war, but silence felt like poison in their veins. Word spread faster than wildfire in Dust Creek. Blackwood's spies caught wind of the discovery before the brothers could even decide their next move. Accused of being the robbers themselves, framed with planted evidence, the pair was hauled before a kangaroo court. "They know too much," Blackwood snarled from his perch, his voice dripping with false righteousness. The gallows were erected overnight in the town square, ropes swaying like vultures, sados. As the nooses tightened around their necks, Eli whispered to Caleb, "Brother, if this is the end, no, I regret nothing but not protecting you better." The crowd murmured, a mix of bloodthirsty opportunists and fearful townsfolk too scared to speak up. The trapdoor creaked, ready to drop. But fate, it seemed, had one more card to play. Enter Josiah Thorne, the rancher whose sprawling spread lay just beyond the town's borders. Josiah was a man carved from the land itself. Broad-shouldered, weathered by 50 years of dust storms and cattle drives, with eyes that held the quiet wisdom of someone who'd seen empires rise and fall in the West. He wasn't a hero by trade, he was a widower raising a young daughter, Amelia, on his own after losing his wife to fever 5 years prior. Josiah lived by a simple code: tend your herd, help your neighbor, and let kindness be the legacy you leave. He'd heard whispers of the brothers, plight while delivering beef to the saloon, and something stirred in him, a memory of his own youth, when he'd been falsely accused of rustling and spared by a stranger's mercy. As the executioner raised his hand, Josiah rode into the square on his bay mare, rifle slung across his back, shouting, "Old! This man ain't guilty, and I'll stake my life on it." The crowd parted like the Red Sea, murmurs turning to gasps. Blackwood's face twisted in fury. "Thorne, this ain't your business. Step aside or join him." But Josiah dismounted steadily, his voice calm as a summer stream. "It is my business, Major. These boys found your ledger. I know because I saw it myself last night, they slipped it to me for safekeeping before your goons grabbed him." It was a bluff, bold as brass, but Josiah had pieced it together from saloon talk and his own suspicions. It long distrusted Blackwood, whose taxes on local ranchers smelled of extortion. The unexpected turn? Josiah wasn't alone. He'd rallied a handful of silent allies, farmers and miners who'd suffered under Blackwood's thumb, convincing them that silence was complicity in evil. One by one, they stepped forward, voicing doubts about the trial. Eli and Caleb, necks raw from the ropes, stared in disbelief as the scene unfolded. The brothers had expected death, not deliverance from a man they'd barely known. Josiah's act wasn't born of personal gain, he had no stake in the secret beyond the moral weight it carried. "I've lost enough in this life," he said later, as the ropes were cut and the brothers freed amid growing chaos. "My wife taught me that kindness ain't weakness, it's the only thing that outlasts the grave." But the twist deepened. Blackwood, cornered, drew his pistol, aiming for Josiah. In a flash of realization, Caleb lunged, taking the bullet meant for their savior. Blood bloomed on his shirt, and the square erupted. Eli's scream pierced the air, a raw cry of brotherly anguish. The climax came not in gunfire, but in compassion's quiet storm. As Caleb lay bleeding, Josiah knelt beside him, tearing his own shirt for a bandage. "Boy, you didn't have to do that," he whispered, tears carving tracks through the dust on his face. The townsfolk, witnessing this selfless exchange, turned on Blackwood. Farmers barred his escape, miners disarmed his men. In that moment, Josiah's generosity transformed the crowd, from passive observers to active guardians of justice. He could have fled, saved his skin, but instead, he cradled Caleb like a son, barking orders for a doctor. "We're all kin in this wild land," he declared, his voice breaking. One man's pain is everyone's burden. The profound realization hit Eli like a thunderclap. Their secret wasn't just about crime, it was a test of humanity's core. Blackcoat was arrested, his ledger revealed, exposing a web of corruption that had choked Dust Creek for years. In the days that followed, Caleb survived, though scarred, and the brothers found refuge on Josiah's ranch. Amelia, Josiah's daughter, tended to Caleb's wounds with gentle hands, her innocence a balm for his battered spirit. Eli worked the land beside Josiah, learning that true strength lay not in fists or guns, but in extending a hand to the fallen. The town rebuilt, freer and fairer, with Josiah quietly declining any hero's praise. "I didn't say it, I'm alone," he'd say. "We all did, by choosing kindness over fear." Years later, as the West tamed itself with railroads and lawmen, the story of that day echoed like a legend. Eli and Caleb became ranchers themselves, passing on Josiah's lessons to their own families. And in quiet moments under starlit skies, they'd remember, in a world of deadly secrets and hanging ropes, one act of selflessness can rewrite destinies. It's the power of humanity that endures, inspiring us to believe that even in the harshest frontiers, be it the Wild West or the trials of modern life, hope blooms from the seeds of compassion. For every shadow cast by greed, there's a light kindled by generosity, reminding us all that we're never truly alone.